Nature.
In American culture, the age of 18 is always thought to be the golden age when one is entitled to much more rights than before. Upon reaching this so-called golden age, one is entitled to being able to smoke cigarettes, serve in the military, vote, serve on a jury, and work full-time, of course. And while this does seem like a lot of rights for such a young age, it is still currently illegal throughout all 50 states to consume alcohol before the age of 21. And that brings me to my main proposition, which is lowering the minimum drinking age to 18 would have serious negative consequences throughout America. And for a brief overview of my supporting claims, that is because drinking alcohol at an early age can cause serious health issues, and lowering it to 18 would put many young adults at serious risk. And my second claim being that if the minimum drinking age were lowered to 18, then a much greater amount of the population would be entitled to going to nightclubs or bars, and let's be honest, a bar or nightclub is no place for a teenager. Back to my first claim, alcohol consumption is potentially dangerous if consumed by a young age. There's a study done by the U.S. Department of Health and Services that shows that early alcohol consumption can cause chronic issues such as alcohol dependence, depression, memory loss, and violence. And while this is true, lowering the minimum drinking age would legally put many young adults at serious risk legally. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but in my argument, I am only clearly focusing on the legal issues that would be caused by lowering the minimum drinking age. So things such as a hypothetical statement like more drunk drivers would be created will be completely ignored here. These are only legal problems. And the legal issue that lowering it to 18 would cause is, like I said before, like there'd be many serious health consequences. And my second claim is that, what I stated earlier in my overview, lowering the legal drinking age would cause a much greater amount of young adults access to bars and nightclubs. And it's pretty obvious that bars and nightclubs are no places for teenagers because in a study, a recent study by the Pacific Institute for Research and Evaluation, an article, a study titled, How Alcohol Outlets Affect Neighborhood Violence. Over the course of 6 years, starting in 2006, they monitored over 551 alcohol distributing facilities in 74 cities throughout Los Angeles County. They found that bars and nightclubs have a statistically much greater amount of violent crimes and a much higher increase in violence than other places. And it is pretty clear that allowing 18 to 20-year-olds access to bars and nightclubs would be very dangerous because they are, relatively young. And it is not to include that alcohol does have the ability to ease tension, cause compulsive behaviors, and of course, what I stated before, violence, which is why this fact is true. And in conclusion, the minimum drinking age in America should not be lowered to 18 because many young adults would be put at serious legal health risk, such as stated before, just the risks of drinking alcohol, which is alcohol dependence, depression, memory loss, and violence, and that many of them would be allowed to enter bars and nightclubs, which are statistically unsafe for teenagers. Thank you.
All right, Albert, the proposition's clearly stated. We know what the topic is. You do preview the secondary claims, and I think that, that they're okay, they're pretty reasonable. Your first point, though, when you signpost in the body of the speech, you don't really do very much to develop it. And in fact, you kind of argue that that's not the point you're going to be talking about. You're just going to be talking about the legal issues. So if you're just talking about legal issues, maybe you should be changing the main proposition, and your focus should be lowering the drinking age would create substantial legal problems for people who are 18 to 21. They're more likely to, encounter some kind of problem with the law enforcement or break some rule or something along those lines. You seem to be going out of your way to avoid talking about other effects. I mean, you talk about all the negative effects in one very general card about the harmful things that occur because people start drinking at a younger age. So why is it okay to talk about those things and not talk about the driving issue? That seems to have been the main issue that propelled us to have the legal drinking age at 21 in the first place, and it feels like you're kind of ignoring the elephant in the room, so to speak. On the second point, that bars and nightclubs have more violence than other places. I guess that there's probably not a lot of dispute about that, but why is that going to change as a result of allowing 18, 19, and 20-year-olds access to that? It might expose those 18, 19, and 20-year-olds to violence that takes place in nightclubs and bars, but I'm not exactly sure that you've demonstrated that the risk level is that much higher that we should be worried about that. And the truth is, I think that there's, a big argument that's missing here, and that's that the current laws or rules have any effect on people going into those places in the first place or drinking in the first place. And I think you're missing that part of the argument. You need to have something there that demonstrates the cause, so to speak, for the harm that you're talking about. The evidence on the first point had a very general citation. You cited it, but that was the only piece of information that you had. Same sort of thing on the second point. You had one piece of information. So basically, you've got two pieces of data that you're using to make your argument on, and that's a little thin. So I think you probably need to develop some more arguments, some more evidence to support your argument. I think you do a very nice job, though, speaking to the audience, even though you are blue around the gills. All right.